everybody. I'm Jim Fidel, and I'm with Carolina Training and Assessments. Today, I'd like to talk about hiring. And specifically, I want to talk about the part of the hiring process where we vet our candidates and make the hiring decision. Now, most organizations have their own unique way or specific way of going about the process, and that's totally fine, whatever you do within your organization. But I think that's important to recognize that there are a couple of landmines that can get in the way. And those landmines tend to be common from organization to organization. So it's those things that I want to talk about today. Specifically, I want to talk about what a job interview is all about, what those landmines are in the vetting process, and what can we do to mitigate maybe making a really bad decision when it comes to hiring. Okay, so let's start with what the hiring process is really all about and what the interview process is really all about. Ultimately, we want to find the right candidate to go into the job. And so we often talk about right person, right fit. Right person has to do with does this person fit with our culture? Do they fit with our teams here? Right fit is, do they fit the job? Can they do the job? Can they deliver what we need them to deliver? So it comes down to those two things. In any interview process, those are generally the two things that we're looking for. Now, let's talk about the landmines. First, one of the biggest landmines that I see is that people make the assumption that a candidate's credentials equal a candidate's ability to deliver results or do the job. You see, often we can get wrapped around a certain degree, a certain number of years of experience, certain certifications, and we can allow ourselves to get into the belief that those credentials mean that the person can do the job, and that's not necessarily true. So if you need to have certain requirements for education or certifications for the nature of your industry or your job, that's totally fine. We'll call those pay-to-play credentials. If you don't have those, you don't even get considered. The key is to make sure that we don't use only those credentials as the reason for making the hire. So for example, someone may have a mechanical engineering degree, but that doesn't mean that they're doing a really good job of designing equipment. Or maybe they've never designed equipment in the past. And so it's important for us to ask questions and vet them on the ability to do the job. More to come on that. The second landmine that I see in many, many organizations is the belief that how a person behaves in an interview is going to be indicative of how they'll behave long term. Again, sometimes nothing could be further from the truth. You see, anybody can behave any way they want or feel they need to for an hour in an interview. The key is, who are you going to have 6 months from now? And I hear a lot. I hear many clients talking about hires that they've made, and one of the things they'll say is, I have no idea who this person is anymore. They're certainly not the person that I hired from that interview. So those two landmines, assuming that credentials equals ability to do the job, and assuming that someone's behavior in an interview is how they're going to behave down the road, are the two landmines that we want to try to avoid. One of the most effective ways that I know of to help avoid those two landmines is to establish what we're going to call deliverables or factors of success for the person in the job. It's pretty simple. Think 12 to 18 months down the road and think about what the person in this job needs to be able to produce or deliver to be successful in the job. Now, we've talked before about two parts of the job, what you do and how you do it. It's the same thing for the vetting process. So when you think about what success looks like in the job, think about it from the perspective of what are the things that need to be delivered. So the metrics, the projects, the sales volume, whatever it is, the what's, deliverables part of the job, and the how's, things like relationships that need to be built, engagement with other functional areas of the company. So it's important for us to understand, what does success look like in the job 12 to 18 months down the road? And we want to vet our candidates on whether or not they've done those things in the past and how well they've done those things in the past, if they've had the opportunity to do them. So our vetting process needs to shift from assuming that credentials equals ability to do the job, and we need to begin asking questions around things like, one of the ways to be successful in this job is to produce over $10 million in sales in the next 12 months. Tell me about a time when you've done something of similar magnitude. Or, one of the ways to be successful in this job is to be able to design a custom piece of equipment that can laminate 3 pieces of our product into a single package. Tell me about a time when you've designed and built a machine that can do that. So again, mechanical engineering or engineering degree does not necessarily equal the ability to do the job. When it comes to the behavioral things, ask questions like, one of the things that a person in this job needs to be able to do is establish strong relationships with sales, engineering, and finance in our organization. Tell me about a time when you've had to establish relationships with different functional areas in your organization. Those types of questions create the opportunity for you to hear what the person has done in the past and ask follow-up questions, which is totally the key. We want to make sure we ask follow-up questions to continue to dig into their examples and make sure that we can satisfy ourselves that what they say they've done is really what they've done, and the challenges that they faced and solved are similar to the challenges that they'll face within our own organization. So, to become more effective in your hiring process, make sure you think about the things that need to be done in the job to make the person successful and vet the candidate based upon that. In other words, don't assume that credentials means that the person has the ability to do the job, and don't assume that their behavior in the interview is the behavior that you'll see from them long term. Now, even the best, most effective vetting process still leaves room for error. No process is ever going to be 100%. But one of the things that we recommend at Carolina Training and Assessments is the use of a pre-hire behavioral assessment, which we offer. The assessments that we provide are validated to predict success in the job and allows you to tailor what success looks like so that you can match your candidate with what the definition of success looks like in the job and make a much more informed, much better hiring decision. So, if you want to make your hiring process more effective and your hiring decision more on target, avoid the 2 landmines of assuming that credentials equals success in the job and assuming that somebody's behavior in the interview is the behavior that you'll see down the road. Finally, I always recommend that you use a pre-hire assessment like the ones that we offer here at Carolina Training and Assessments. If you'd like more information on how we can help make your hiring process more effective, or if you'd like to see our assessments at work, please feel free to reach out or visit us online at carolinatrainingandassessments.com. I'm Jim Fidel. Thanks for listening.